My wife Carol and I love to hike here in Beaver Creek on the wild south slope of Pikes Peak in central Colorado. My name is John Stansfield. I'm a writer and an outdoorsman. Across the West, there are many areas like Beaver Creek that have lots of wilderness quality. They're administered by the Bureau of Land Management.
The Bureau of Land Management is an agency in the Department of the Interior. They manage 245 million acres of public lands, along with all of the resources that go along with that, the wildlife, the wilderness, minerals. My name is Ann Morgan, and I'm a public lands consultant. It's everything from red rock deserts to high mountain peaks to old-growth forests to parts of the California coast.
Originally, the intent was to dispose of these lands and to develop them for oil, gas, mining, and to use them for their rangeland resources. And only really in the 1970s did that all change. My name is Ken Raitt, and I'm a director of the U.S. Public Lands Program at the Pew Charitable Trusts.
The evolution is in response to the public's love of these resources. The more people that are recreating on public lands, that are hunting and fishing and camping, the more the BLM is going to pay attention to the people who are recreating on the public lands.
The culture of the BLM, I would say, is a little bit like a roller coaster. We like to joke a lot of times that the BLM is sometimes known as the Bureau of Livestock and Mining. But really that does reflect, I think, how the BLM saw itself for the early part of its history. And I think that is changing. My name is Mark Squillace. I am professor of law at the University of Colorado Law School.
There are as many different opinions on what constitutes multiple use and sustained yield as there are people out there to tell you about them. And so from mining companies' perspective, it means one thing. For the person who wants to hike in the quiet and solitude, it means something else. And when the two come together, it's not usually pretty. The challenge for BLM managers is bring people around a table and have them start talking about what they have in common, not what they don't like about each other. My name is Elena Daly, and I am currently retired from the Bureau of Land Management. The Bureau's attitude is much more one of a team working together. And if you're going to do a project, you bring in the wildlife biologist and the archaeologist and the hydrologist and make sure that you're looking at a piece of land for all it contains. Using it doesn't necessarily mean abusing it.
If I had to point to one particular thing that really changed the BLM, it was the establishment of the National Landscape Conservation System. This was a program that was put into place by then Secretary of the Interior, Bruce Babbitt, and it was really a remarkable idea.
We decided there really was time to establish a conservation mission within the Bureau of Land Management.
Public involvement is absolutely critical because without it, the agency is only going to hear from the development interest. They're not going to understand the human experience on these lands. And the human experience is the times that we're out there hiking, the times that we're out there just to enjoy the solitude, the incredible vast open spaces, the deafening quiet. To be clear, we don't oppose all development on the public lands. There can be oil and gas development, that there can be mining, and that there can be livestock grazing and responsible off-road vehicle use. 250 million acres is a vast domain. There's enough room for everyone.
Some landscapes, it's going to make perfect sense to allow oil and gas development. Other landscapes may have some important recreational or wildlife resources, including things like endangered species or important cultural sites that should be protected.
Those of us who live here in the West are really fortunate to be able to enjoy these lands whenever we wish. But we have to remember that these lands are part of our public land heritage. These lands belong to all Americans.
In 50 years, I would hope that the American public would look back on the Bureau of Land Management and what it's accomplished with a sense of pride and a sense of gratitude, and would be able to say, we gave this organization these lands, and they managed them well, and they managed them intelligently, so that we know they will be there for generations. We are grateful for the acts of preservation and conservation that they have provided.
In America, we are so blessed with our public lands. You don't have to be wealthy to go out and go camping or horseback riding or hiking in some of the most beautiful places in the entire world. Where in other parts of the world, that's all privately owned. You have to be a king or a friend of the king in order to enjoy that. We're all royalty in the United States because these lands are available to all of us, and it is an incredible world treasure.